It's far too simplistic to say everything that's going wrong now is Keir Starmer's fault. He's making things worse, but it's not Keir Starmer's fault at all. He's following on from Tory policies, Tory practices. Elon Musk is a hero to me because he saved free speech for the Western world. My number 5 villain is not an individual, it's a group, and that's called the Tory government. For me, everything that's going wrong at the moment and been going wrong for decades all started, maybe even if it didn't technically start, it was allowed to grow and allowed to expand and allowed to become the mainstream, all under 14 years of Tory rule.
Yes.
It's far too simplistic to say everything that's going wrong now is Keir Starmer's fault. He's making things worse, but it's not Keir Starmer's fault at all. He's following on from Tory policies, Tory practices. And I think when we look back in history, I think the last 14 years of Tory government will be seen as incompetent, as traitors, as Marxists, as weak, pathetic individuals who were lucky enough to be elected into power and then just followed on the same agenda as Tony Blair and the rest of the woke elite world. I think the 14 years of Tory government, and I all started with Cameron, who I think killed the Tory party. Theresa May, DEI hire, failed when she was tested. Boris Johnson, the biggest letdown in a prime minister of my lifetime, the biggest letdown. Talk about over-promising and under-delivering. He sold himself as the new Churchill, and he turned into he turned into
the complete opposite of Churchill.
A weak, pathetic man.
Yeah.
A cook of a man being led by a lead by his new young wife, and would just do anything that made him feel he was being popular.
Yeah.
Complete. And I think I'm more angry with him because I bought into his lies in 2019.
Yeah.
I bought into it, so I feel a fool as well for believing it. Well, lots of people were telling me, Nick, don't believe a word that man says. He's a liar. But they were the same people who were telling me no matter who I was voting for, don't vote for them.
Yeah.
So when you cry wolf too many times and warn people about everything, when you're right, they don't listen to you anyway. So
yeah.
Tory government, I think, are the biggest villains of this year because...
Sorry, number 5, we were counting down.
Sorry, number 5, the biggest in the list. They're in my list because they are the biggest, well, number 5 on the list of the biggest villains this year. Tory party. We all need to remember never to stop despising them until they've had a clean out.
Yeah. I mean, I think the way we're going to do this is let's listen to your top 5, but I'll comment, and if there's any that aren't in my top 5 or whatever, they'll do.
We're bound to have a lot.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot in common. However, on my list, interestingly enough, wasn't the Tory party, but Rishi Sunak. And Rishi Sunak, for pretty much the same reasons you just described, he was the figurehead, the grinning imbecile at the head of the Tory party when it succumbed and went over. But he was the kind of captain who went down with the ship of the Tory party at the time, the symbol, if you like, of the Tory party.
Well, I had him on my list,
and
then when I thought, well, how can I have him on my list, but not all the other Tory leaders? And that's when I went, no, it has to be the Tory government.
Although you're kind of moving into previous years, but I get your principle. It's dead right. That's very interesting. Okay, well, who's your number 5 hero of 2024, Nick?
It has to be somebody that a couple of years ago, when they really hit the scene, and you'll understand what I mean when I say hit the scene in a minute, I thought they were non-political, but it turns out they're very political, and it turns out that they are, by that one action, saving the world, and that person is Elon Musk. I never realised how buying Twitter and freeing Twitter as the public square would change the world, and change the world so fastly. It's given people who were silenced on Twitter, it's given them the not only the tools to speak, but the confidence to speak. The discussions on Twitter now, some are mental. Some, lots I disagree with. But at least we can have him now, can't we?
Yes.
At least we can have him. At least it's not just another propaganda arm of the status quo, of the elite, of being controlled. He's freed up the public square in the Western world. And I know he got involved with Trump and funded Trump, and there's talk about him funding reform. I don't mean any of that. I'm talking purely about buying
the purchase of Twitter,
which is my favourite social media app. Yeah. Because only if you're involved in politics. I like politics. If you're not, then Twitter's probably not for you.
Yeah.
But all the good and the bad are on there.
Yeah.
Even the people who say we're leaving Twitter, we're going to Blue Sky. Blue Sky,
yeah.
Most of them are still on Twitter.
Yeah. Because there are clouds at Blue Sky, which I'll talk about later. Then.
Yeah. Blue Sky crap won't last.
Yeah.
But yeah, Elon Musk is a hero to me because he saved free speech for the Western world.
I think that's a great choice, and coincidentally my number 5 was Elon Musk as well. And I think, as you say, that the critique of the global elites, he recognised and bought Twitter because he realised free speech was dying in America, and I think you're right, he's had more, I mean, you could argue him higher up the list really. He's had more of an impact on free speech and people speaking openly now. It's interesting, I was chatting with my kids yesterday about, because I think things are shifting fast now. People are talking about immigration. We're going to talk about a Twitter storm you're in at the moment later, maybe not this episode, but another one. Things are moving fast now. But I was talking to my kids who are kind of casual observers of the things that I'm interested in, my wife are interested in, and we're interested in. And they said there's a lot more discussion now about these topics like trans, immigration, all those things now are being talked about openly and people are speaking far more freely. If Elon Musk hadn't bought Twitter, that is highly unlikely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that conversation, that dialogue, and like us talking now and people listening to us, gets people talking, being less afraid to speak about these things. So if they see it on Twitter, if they see Musk being vocal about these things as well, it has a massive impact. So I agree. I would argue he might be higher up the list than number 5 just because of the impact he's had.
I think you could be correct. I think this time next year he may be at the top of the list because we may see more outcomes of the purchase of X and his involvement.
Yeah.
I've got a theory why he bought X.
Go on.
I don't think he necessarily bought X to save the world. I don't think he bought X to protect everyone's free speech. I think he bought X because he was a very upset father and he was looking at punishing the people who gave him pain.
Yeah.
His son is a trans woman now and his son doesn't speak to him, hates him, and I think he looked at social media and went, you did that to my family.
Yeah, I think he said that, hasn't he?
I don't know.
He's actually said that.
But that was always been my interpretation, was he's going, right, if you can do that to me, the richest man in the world, and you can destroy my family with propaganda and this ideology, then you can destroy anything.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure it's harder for you to do this going forward, and I'm going to buy that platform.
I think you're right that he has definitely referenced that as what happened, that social media poisoned his son. I think if you actually asked Musk why he'd done it, I think there would be multiple answers, and he probably doesn't know either why he did it, because I think that guys like that and the way they operate, they don't think like you and I think. I think they think very differently, so they don't. His decision will have been based on all sorts of kind of weird things at the time, and he probably couldn't articulate it now. But I think that's a great choice, Nick. For
and there's also
he has got to be definitely in the top 5 for 2024.
He's also a good example to everybody else in the country and everybody else who watches this, which is bad things happen to all of us. He lost his son. His son's mentally ill. His son doesn't speak to him anymore, and he's the richest man in the world. So if bad things can happen to him, bad things can happen to all of us.
Yeah.
He easily could have bunkered down and did nothing.
Yeah.
But he decided to put everything he had, which is a lot more than anyone else has got, on the line to fight back. Why is he fighting back? Because he's a man. He's a father. And he's looked and went, you did this to my family. I'm not having that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take you on. And I may lose. but do you know what? I'll be a bloody good second.
Yeah.
And that's the lesson we need to learn out of Musk, is we all should be fighting back. We haven't got the billions he's got, but we all can fight back. And especially if you're a man, to protect your family, protect your children, protect your country. It's your duty to use the resources, the very limited resources you've got, to fight back. And for me, the main resource we all have is free speech. So start using it before you lose it.
I think that's really true. I think what's interesting about Musk as well is, unlike all the other trillionaires, billionaires we've got out there aren't trillionaires. He's nearly a trillionaire, isn't he? The billionaires we have out there, most of them become government shills, don't they? When they get their money, they toe the line. They go along with the government. They go and they
most people do.
They get involved with Obama and all that jazz. But Musk hasn't, has he?
No.
He's just carried on being true to himself, his vision, what he wants to do, and what he sees. And I think that's fantastic. And what's interesting is I've noticed all the other tech billionaires are now heading over to Mar-a-Lago to see Trump.
They can see the tides turning. We can see Trump's won now. We can see the country's changed. We know Trump may not be president in 4 years' time, but J.D. Vance probably will. We're going to have a decade of this, and maybe even longer. The country's changed. I run a business. I better get on board, because I don't care what I believe in as long as I'm making money.
Correct.
So tell me what to believe now, and I'll start believing that, because my allegiance to these ideologies was only skin deep. I don't care. I just want to make money. So they're all changing their opinions now.
And I think what we're seeing now, and you're on a Twitter storm at the moment, we're going to talk about later, what we're seeing now on Twitter and on the news, and these shrill voices from race grifters, trannies, all those kind of people as well. I think these are the last screams now of an ideology that is dying.
Oh, it's absolutely
I really
dying.
believe that.
Yeah, it's dying. It's going to die quickly in the private sector. It's going to take a lot longer in the public sector, especially in the UK. It may die quick in America because he's looking at sacking loads of people and cutting government. We're not looking at any of that here. So it'll die.
That's going to happen when we get in power.
Exactly.
That'll happen when we get in power. So I think I think the Musk choice is a brilliant one. And as we talk, I actually think he should be higher up. But I put him at 5 as well.